or want answers with your knees on our neck. I can't breathe, eating my Skittles while I scribble my notes, contemplating on how I should vote. Got my back on the ropes. I'm from a hood where we learn from our losses. They come from a hood where they burning them crosses. We ain't the same. Panic's at an all-time high. I try hard saying I won't cry. Leave the house hoping I don't die. Looking up to the sky, say a prayer hoping I survive. Anthony Hill, 26-year-old war veteran, was at an apartment complex in Atlanta where someone said he was crawling around naked, knocking on doors, acting deranged, so they called the cops. Now instead of showing up and giving this veteran the proper help that he needed, he was shot twice and killed, unarmed and naked. Yo, these kids supposed to be the future, but they shooting them down. Over toy guns and music, they get stretched on the ground. It's cause they skin brown, they gotta drown in their own blood. While these cops getting slapped on the wrist by a judge. No accountability for what we see. Are you kidding me? They don't de-escalate no more, they shoot and go free. Unjustified justification. We playing in funerals while they playing in vacations. They get gratification. One nation under two different laws. The motivation needs no explanation, the system is flawed. They shooting up the mall, even killing in churches. With proof they get away with the murder. We can't break up a fight, have a broken tail light, or just run. If your phone is in your hand, they still screaming a gun. Get your wallet out your pocket, they get scared cause you black. Or kicking your door, put two on your back, and have the wrong address. 22-year-old Kane Rogers was shot and killed by a police officer responding to a suspicious person possibly breaking into vehicles. As seen on his dash cam, he swerved in front of Kane's car at the last second, so Kane avoided his car. He jumps out, starts shooting, strikes him and kills him. He said Kane tried to run him over. Dash cam shows something completely different. People putting pressure on politicians, the plot thickens. Purpose with a passion for past victims, the past hit hard. Scarred hearts in different parts of the country. Graveyards making plenty of money, while the scene getting ugly. But see, it don't make sense, cause the expense don't cover the suspense of being colored, while days are being numbered, and our nights are getting tougher. These ages getting younger, everything makes me wonder how we living in the land of the free, but your life is the price. Cops throwing bullet shells like rice, and a routine stop could be the end of your life, cause you don't have the right to be defending your rights. My nephew caught 76 from these pricks cause they flipped. Come to find out, it was nothing he did. Another young man, gunned down and gone. Rest in peace to Jamarion. Word. Jamarion Robinson, 26 years old. He was at his girlfriend's house watching TV when the cops kicked in the door and let off over 100 shots, hitting him 76 times. And all this was captured on Facebook Live. Investigators say somebody actually stood over his body and shot down into him. After they dragged him down the stairs and show his mom a picture of the suspect who allegedly pulled a gun on a cop, who was the wrong person.
This is why I say it's the ballot or the bullet. It's liberty or it's death. It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. America today finds herself in a unique situation. Historically, revolutions are bloody. Oh yes, they are. They have never had a bloodless revolution or a non-violent revolution. That don't happen even in Hollywood. It'll be liberty or it'll be death. And if you're not ready to pay that price, don't use the word freedom in your vocabulary.
First and foremost, my heart goes out to the families of Anthony Hill, Kane Rogers, and Jamarion Robinson. If you Google those names, you'll see their stories, you'll see the released pictures and video footage that's out. There's so many other families just in Atlanta alone that are dealing with the same situations of police brutality, where there's no justice as of yet for any of them. I'm not directly connected to him, but I am connected to Monteria Robinson, who is Jamarion's mom. And she's been going hard, man, putting in the work, making sure her son's case doesn't just disappear, helping these other families fight and push their cases. If you would like to help or support reach out to her on social media. I'm sure she'll get back to you when she has time. She has a lot on her plate. And again, man, I just want to send my heartfelt prayers to the families and everybody that's dealing with these police brutality situations across the country. Not everybody gets national coverage. There's a lot that has been swept under the rug. But I'm just doing my part to bring awareness. Peace.
Yo, what's happening, y'all? It is Tuesday, so y'all know what time it is. It's right on time, a little bit after 8:30, a little bit before 9 o'clock. It is time for Classic Conversations with JT and Lo. I am JT, and this is Lo. Hope y'all have had a good week. Glad that you're tuning in, and if you notice, you can go right on my Facebook page right now. You can go on Angelo's Facebook page, and you will be able to actually see the studio shot instead of our Facebook Live shot with the green screen. You can actually see the room that we're actually sitting in. See the books behind us? We smart and everything. See what I'm saying? We trying to read up on some stuff. Bro, what's happening? What's been going on this week for you,
good
man?
with your brother, man? Hey, man, it's been an interesting week. You know, this week has stirred up so much dialogue that we discussed last week in reference to the SB 202. And I tell you, I've been talking about that all week long, man, and stuff we talked about last week about what they should cancel, and sure enough, it got canceled.
I know.
All-Star Game got
It's crazy,
canceled.
right?
Yeah. So,
Tell you, man, I think somebody listening to us.
So that was very interesting, man, and then to hear all the backlash from it has been. I'm glad it took that, I think, to get people to really see what's really going on. You know what I mean?
So for those of you that didn't tune in last week, basically what we're talking about, the, what is it, SB 202?
Yeah.
The new voting bill that was kind of snuck in behind closed doors. And we had a state senator, is that her position?
Cool.
Young lady, that representative.
Yeah.
Representative went up, knocked on the door, and blew everything up. So that's how most people found out about it. It's basically changing the laws, and in a way, what they're doing is they kind of how should we say it?
They're doing voter suppression in our face. That's what
There it
they're
is.
doing.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, suppressing votes.
Hey, ain't no way to hide that junk.
Yeah.
It's
They're
voter suppression
basically-
in your
yeah,
face.
They're suppressing votes. We talked about it last week, and we was talking about Major League Baseball. There was rumors about they were going to take the All-Star Game away from Atlanta, in other words, away from Georgia, and that's exactly what they did. I think the Masters, it might be a little too late for them to do anything, but it would have been nice.
It would have been a big statement.
Yeah, it would have been a big statement if they did that.
But they you know, I don't know if you had a chance to see this dude's press conference, but when I say this dude was in straight denial mode, and his whole press conference was Stacey Abrams and the far left, Stacey Abrams and the cancel culture, Stacey Abrams. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, that's all you got?
I mean, he was, what was he saying? Major League Baseball is afraid of Stacey Abrams? And what did he call it?
The cancel culture.
That was, I mean, I didn't see the actual press conference, but I saw some of his quotes, and some of the stuff he was saying was just, it was amazing.
There was a few questions that nobody asked him, which I was disturbed by. Me and my uncle were talking about it, you know, because he said the same thing I was thinking was, why did anyone not ask him, why did y'all do it behind closed doors? Why was there not an open forum? You know what I mean? But nobody asked that question. The whole press conference, none of them asked, you know, why was it behind closed doors?
Sounds like they were told not to ask that question. Yeah, sounds like they were told not to ask that question, because if you ask that question, we're not going to let you back. We're going to revoke your press pass, and that's why they didn't ask the question. So, but glad something was done about it. Sending a message, we're still not done, because somehow we got to get this thing changed around for real. I think a lot of other people in different states are finding out the same thing is going on in their states also. You know, kudos to JT and Lo for getting that out there.
Yeah, man.
Sure. Well,
Yeah, man. We for the people.
Making a difference. I told you, man, this is about our community. We're making a difference out here.
Hey, man, what's that old country western show, man? Hee Haw, man. Man, I tell you, man, if y'all could just see Bo in here, man. Every time I look up, man, Hee Haw I just want a guitar.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Did I call back yet, Dwayne?
I want to get.
He's on the line.
I want to get my brakes done.
All right, so JT, want to get your braids done. Listen, man, we got this caller. My uncle saw the topic when I posted it, and his good friend Carl Snowden, man. This man is, I don't know if history buff even does it true justice of the knowledge and history that he has. And anytime my uncle makes a post with this guy on there, man, I immediately post it because his history, man, is just beyond belief. He tried to get him on a couple times before, the time didn't allow, man, but he's on the line now, so I don't want to waste any more of his time. I want to get him right on because they saw the post.
Okay. You tagged me in some of his before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, this brother's so deep, man.
Yeah, yes.
That all we can just be humbled that he took the time to call in. And so can we get him on? Let me hear. You there, Brother Snowden?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The floor is yours. I want you to speak whatever you want to speak to the people, however you want to address it. The floor is yours.
One of the things that I think is important is that we begin to control the narrative. It's important that we be able to tell the story. If you were to ask people in Atlanta this evening this question, what happened 40 years ago last month? And many will look and wonder, what are you referring to? Because people don't take the time to document the history and to know the story. 40 years ago in Atlanta, we had the 1981 murder of children in Atlanta, Georgia. And we have in Atlanta some of the most prestigious universities and colleges in the nation. Have you ever wondered why people have not stopped and examined what happened in 1981 and what are the lessons that come from 1981? Most people are even unaware of the major contributions that a woman named Kamel Bell, who lived in Atlanta, made to the nation. It was Kamel Bell that called for and was able to produce the first national program in the nation, where if children are missing, we now know there's a process to identifying his missing children. But Kamel Bell is not getting credit for that. Just as if you listen to people who talk about the free breakfast program, most people are unaware that the free breakfast program in this country started by the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party is not given credit for creating the first free breakfast program in the nation.
That's right.
It's very important that we control the narrative. If I were to ask people today, who was James Madison, they could tell you that James Madison was one of the founding fathers and wrote the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. If I were to ask you who George Washington was, they would instantly tell you that George Washington was the first president of the United States. But if I ask you the question, who was Madison Washington? Most people listening to this program have no idea who Madison Washington was. But if they were to Google him, they would discover that Madison Washington freed more African Americans than Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln produced the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, and a black man named Madison Washington freed over 130 black people 22 years earlier. But most people have no idea who he was. Just as if you ask most people about Kamala Harris, who's now the Vice President of the United States, they would tell you that Kamala Harris is the first woman who happened to be black to be Vice President of the United States and the first to bring a blended family to the White House. A blended family, as you know, is a racially mixed family. Kamala Harris' husband is white and her kids are white. Most people have no idea that the third Vice President of the United States, a man named Mentor Johnson from Kentucky, had married a black woman And this black woman had 2 black daughters. And most people have no idea that this blended family was in the White House long before Kamala Harris even was thought of. It's that missing history that's so important. So one of the things I just wanted to do was to emphasize to people the importance of doing your research, knowing your history, and being able to share with people knowledge. Please Google Madison Washington and see who he was. Find out how he was brilliant, how he was able to free these 130 people. Look up a man named Kenneth Mentor Johnson, who was the third vice president. He was the vice president under Martin Van Buren. And the fact that he was married to a black woman at a time that it was absolutely illegal to be married to a person of another race. Those are the kind of histories that I wanted to share. As Louis Bracey probably told you, I wrote a book called Some People Watch Clocks, I Watch People. And the purpose of that book is to help to define what the narrative should be. Lastly, I want to end with this comment. And for people, particularly in Atlanta, Georgia, I hope they listen carefully to this analysis. If you would ask most black people, do they believe that President Barack Obama is an intelligent man, they would quickly say yes. If you would ask them, do they think the Reverend Jesse Jackson is an intelligent man, they would say yes. If you ask them, do they think Minister Louis Farrakhan is an intelligent man, they would say yes. But when you ask them this question, since all 3 of these are intelligent men, all living in Chicago, why are they not doing what we're doing tonight? The 3 of us meeting, dialoguing, and having discussion. Why don't these 3 brilliant men, and they're all brilliant, get together in the same room in Chicago, since they're all from Chicago, and talk about how they can collectively address the issues facing the people of Chicago. And what you will discover is that the same way that they don't do it on a national level in Atlanta, Georgia, I can guarantee you that the vast majority of African-American elected officials and leaders do not meet, do not talk about how they can collectively move to address the problems facing the people of Atlanta, Georgia. The brother mentioned how a black woman knocked on the door of the governor of Georgia and was arrested. Have anyone wondered why no black men, seeing this black woman being manhandled the way she was? She's 5 feet 2 inches tall. 4 white police officers manhandled her. Where was the outrage? What happened to black men? I was listening very carefully to your excerpts from Malcolm X and Dr. King. They represent an era where black men who saw injustice rose up. The truth of the matter is, as I said to Louis Bracey, tens of thousands of black men should have converged in Atlanta at the state capitol. Absolutely. And said we will not allow black women to be treated the way this representative was treated. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share some comments and some observations, both concerning Atlanta as well as national issues.
Say the name of the book again.
Mr. Snowden, thank you for those awesome words. Could you we want to make sure we get the name of the book again. We want to post it on the site as well. Can you repeat the name?
Yeah, the book is called Some People Watch Clocks, I Watch People, and you can get it from Amazon, which is the company that currently have the book.
I like that title. Some people watch clocks. I watch people. Like that.
I think your analysis of Atlanta is dead on, and we have to wonder why those things didn't happen, why there wasn't, more outspoken people coming in to this lady's defense, beyond the ridiculous law that was passed. But what about this black woman who was manhandled by 2, like you said, 6+ police officers unnecessarily? It's very, very disappointing. And I never thought about the fact of what you said about those 3 brothers all in Chicago.
Right
3
there
of the most powerful voices. You know, that's,
in the
speaks,
world.
that speaks volumes.
And they're right there in the same city.
Speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does. Makes you think a little bit. Wow.
Oh,
One
brothers.
of the other things I'd just like to share with you quickly, 2024 and 2022 is very important. And of course, you guys are in Atlanta, Georgia, which was the home for Dr. King. And Martin Luther King Jr., who we understood, was actually murdered, assassinated 53 years ago this month. And every year, people pause to remember Martin Luther King Jr. What they don't do is talk about who murdered Martin Luther King Jr. And why. There is a memorial here in Anne Arundel County in Maryland. It's one of the few memorials to Coretta Scott King in the country, where Coretta Scott King, prior to her death, told the world at a press conference in Atlanta, Georgia, who killed her husband, Martin Luther King Jr.
That's correct.
The president at the time was a man named Bill Clinton, who some were calling the first black president, because he played jazz and was supposed to be cool. Well, she asked President Clinton, who was supposed to be a friend of the black community, to do her a favor. She announced that the people who were responsible for killing her husband was the United States government. She absolutely publicly stated that the government killed her husband.
Right.
She asked that the case be reopened and that we look at who killed King. And 53 years later, after the assassination of Dr. King, there had been no formal reopening of that case. Just as recently, it was announced by a police officer who was a detective working undercover in New York City that the FBI and the Bureau of Special Services, which he worked for at the time, plotted to assassinate Malcolm X. He said this on his deathbed. He gave a deathbed confession. And no one has moved to open that case. When it comes to murder, by the way, there's no statute of limitation.
That's right.
Murders that have taken place many decades ago can be reopened. And again, in Alabama, when the 4 little girls were murdered, and when Emmett Till was killed in Mississippi, those cases were reopened. In fact, in the Emmett Till case, they actually convicted the person who was responsible for the murder of Emmett Till. We should really be pressing to find out what really happened to Malcolm X and King, and why were they assassinated at the time that they were rising.
You know, it's funny. When I was listening to the press conference and the news on April 4th, which had to be on Easter Sunday, was the anniversary of his death this year, and hearing, you know, how they led into the story and stated, you know, him being murdered, and they go into who assassinated him and do the little briefing on James Earl Ray, and I remember that dialogue that you just spoke of when Ms. King said that, and I remember the son Dexter they were fighting adamantly about saying, you know, and I think not Dexter, but Martin Luther King Jr. One of them went to the prison. That was Dexter. Went to the prison to meet with James Earl Ray, and asked him point blank, "Did you kill my father?" And he said no. He said, "I did not do it." The man was dying, so he had nothing to lose. I would imagine. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I guess the question is, you know, let me ask you your opinion. Do you think he was the trigger man? Although the government probably put him up, but do you think he was the trigger man?
No. No, there's a great book out called The Plot That Killed Dr. King. One ought to read the book. You will be shocked to learn a number of things that are all matter of record. Not only was Martin Luther King Jr. the victim of a government conspiracy, but the day that he was murdered, there were troops from the army, snipers, who were actually on the scene at the time King was assassinated. Most people don't realize, because they don't take the time to study the record, the black police officers and the black firefighters in Atlanta was pulled away from that site.
That's
The
correct.
day that King was assassinated.
I remember that. Right.
There have been a judge who's now a television judge. His name is Joe Brown. He actually covered the case involving King assassination.
Wow.
And the jury determined that James Earl Ray was not, I repeat, James Earl Ray was not the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. A civil trial found him innocent of the trial or the charge. Again, most Americans don't know that. Just as most Americans don't know, there are two interesting pieces of history. In 1957, when Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his book, Strive to Freedom, he was in Atlanta, Georgia, and a demented black woman asked him, was he Martin Luther King Jr.? He said yes. And she took a knife and stabbed him in his chest. It was said that if Dr. King had sneezed, he would have died. Imagine what would have happened if Dr. King had died in 1957. The person who stabbed him was a demented black woman. Now watch history repeat itself. On June 30th, 1974, Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother is in a church, an Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. Dr. King has been dead 6 years, 8 years actually. And in walked a young man. As Mrs. King is playing the organ, is the Sunday service is beginning, the man asked her, is she the mother of Martin Luther King Jr.? And again, without looking up, she said yes. He then asked her, is she a Christian? Again, she didn't look up. She said yes. He shot her 5 times and killed her. Most people don't even realize that Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother was the victim of an assassin's bullet. But here's the thing that most people need to know. The man who shot and killed Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother was a black man who was arrested and later put into prison, and not prison, but in an insane asylum, where he died some 20 years later. It's just interesting how, if you look at history, you have this odd circumstance where supposedly a mentally ill woman stabs Martin Luther King Jr.,
Wow.
and a mentally ill black man in 1974 stabs, or shoots rather, his mother and kills her. No one's looked at why. How did it happen? So I'm one that believes you need to pause when you see history repeat itself and just begin to connect the dots.
Wow. That's deep.
It's really deep.
Yeah, I remember there's a thing about if he had sneezed, if he had just sneezed, he would have definitely died. That's powerful. And I definitely like the Malcolm X. I've always felt like that was a government assassination. It was too many undercovers all around, and nobody.
Right.
That was assassination for.
Malcolm X in his own autobiography talks about how he was poisoned while traveling in the Middle East and in Africa. He himself would later say that those who were trying to kill him was bigger than the Nation of Islam. And what most people are unaware of, in fact, here's a little tidbit of history. When did you think the first FBI agent was hired in America?
You said when?
When was the first FBI agent hired in America?
I do not know.
Yeah, I can't even guess on that one.
Take a wild guess. When do you think it was?
Early 60s.
Yeah, I was going to say 1957.
Yeah, most people would think it was the early 60s or close to it. The first FBI agent in America was hired in the 20s. Now, why would the first FBI agent be hired in the 20s, a special agent? Answer, because he was hired to infiltrate Marcus Garvey organization. The FBI black man who was hired, was the one that gathered the information that later led to the conviction of Marcus Garvey and Marcus Garvey being exported outside the nation, outside of the country. He never went to Africa, Marcus Garvey. He was from Jamaica, and he died in Jamaica. And yet most people, our children in particular, have no idea of that history. People don't share that information. Most would think that black people became members of intelligence agencies in the 1960s, and it's just not true. They've always used African Americans against other African Americans when it served their purpose. And J. Edgar Hoover personally hired this black man, who, by the way, was a former police officer, and who willingly worked for the government.
Sad but true. Wow. I knew this was going to be an enlightening conversation.
No, man, he's got a lot,
and that's just, and they ain't even hit the tip of his iceberg. So, Brother Snow, I just can't thank you enough for the time and this history, man. We definitely gonna take this information and continue to pass it on because you just taught us something for sure tonight.
Well, do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Google Madison, Washington, and then share with your viewing audience or listening audience who Madison, Washington was.
Absolutely will.
It's an incredible story. Please take the time to Google Madison, Washington, and then ask yourself, why don't anybody ever talk about Madison, Washington?
Right.
What he did was one of these incredible heroic feats in American history. But you will not find Madison, Washington in any school system in America, including Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh yeah.
And there's a reason for that. He who controls the narrative gets to define history.
There it is.
Going to the book, to the world map, in 1970, you will find in 1970 on the world map a place called Saigon, which was in Vietnam. Pick up the map today, you will find no Saigon. What you will find is a city called Ho Chi Minh City, because the conqueror always gets to define the history. Rhodesia no longer exists because when Africans took control, they called it Zimbabwe. Tanzania had a different name. The Congo had a different name. Those who are in the position to define their history control that history and those institutions.
How about that?
And for young people who use the N-word and think that they can redefine the N-word, all I will suggest to them is that people without power cannot define. So only people with power who gets to rename situations, cities, and customs and culture.
Wow.
So
wow.
Hopefully as our young people who do rap music and use all of these N-words, they will come to understand that there's a reason why in our generation we used to refer to each other as brothers and sisters. Today we refer to one another as my dog, my nig, all of these derogatory terms that are designed to define us and define away our humanity. So again, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to participate. And thank you guys for what you do on a weekly basis to help raise the consciousness of our people. We desperately need programs like this, unfiltered, unvarnished, just true. There is a Russian proverb that says a bitter truth is better than the sweetest lie. A bitter truth is better than the sweetest lie. If you don't believe that, if you ever have a woman you happen to be with, try that bitter truth on her versus.
Man, that sweet lie.
Yeah, that sweet lie get you every time. Yeah. That sweet lie buy you a little bit of time, but boy, when it come back, it comes back.
Wow. That's so deep. Yeah. Now, quick question before you go. So the vice president under the third vice,
Martin Van Buren.
Martin Van Buren. You said his vice president was married to a black woman, and this was illegal. So how was he in office the entire time? Was there any changes? I mean, how did that work? I'm just curious to know. Did he finish the term with him and her in the White House?
She was actually an enslaved woman.
Okay.
Wow.
Just as you will recall, because people don't know this, Thomas Jefferson had a black mistress.
Sure.
Her name was Sally Hemings.
Right.
Hemings, and Sally Hemings had a son by Thomas Jefferson. People don't talk about this. Suffice it to say that black women often were the victims of white supremacy, racism. Can you imagine a woman who happened to be black being raped in front of her husband, her significant other, and he does nothing?
Right.
Because of that oppression that existed? The next time you run into somebody who tells you the following, if I had lived during Martin Luther King Jr. period, I wouldn't let white people spit on me. I wouldn't let them put the water hoses on me. Man, I wouldn't do that. And my response is to people who say that, you'll do the same thing in 1963 that you're doing in 2021. Nothing. It's so easy to be able to say what you wouldn't do,
Right.
Or what you would not accept, when in reality, even today, a black woman is manhandled in Atlanta, Georgia,
Wow.
by 4 white
Wow.
police officers,
Wow.
and black men in Atlanta, Georgia, did absolutely nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
I like how you wrap that right up. How about that?
Yep.
How
Tell
about
us what
that?
you'd have done back then when you ain't do it.
And you ain't do it right
last
right
week.
now. How about that? I like how you wrap that in, sir. Yeah, that's 100% accurate. Wow. I just can't sit up but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this time and this knowledge. I mean, this was absolutely awesome. I mean, this was a history lesson for all of us, and we're gonna definitely. Dwayne has the Madison, Washington up on the screen now, so we're gonna definitely continue to share that, and I can't wait to read the story myself because I definitely not had it. Like you said, I hadn't heard of him. True story. So
Hey, listen.
I'm looking forward to it.
There's people making comments. They're basically thanking you for the information that you've shared tonight. So, again, we really appreciate it. Be expecting a phone call for us to have you up here again. You probably done messed up now because you're about to be working on Tuesday nights. Yeah, because what you gave us tonight was a history lesson, and like you said, there's just so many lessons out there that we're not like you said, not researching, not knowing about it. And most of us, when I say us, I mean us as black people, half the time we think we know it all already, so we don't want to listen. But again, really, like Angelo just said, can't thank you enough for this because I've learned a lot just from what you've said tonight. So thanks again.
Thank you. God bless. Have a
Yes,
good
sir.
evening, gentlemen.
And the same, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, man, let me tell you something. Classic conversations, we always have a subject matter that we come in with. But when you get in some history like that, you just got to let it, as the DJ say, you got to let it breathe. And if he wanted to talk till we got off, he could have talked.
Yeah, sure.
He just got to let that breathe right there, man. That was dope. That was
awesome.
That was.
That was awesome, man. Madison White. Boy, I'm definitely gonna be reading that tonight.
It's been a minute since I actually sat and listened to somebody like that.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I've read some of the things that you tagged me in. The dude
Hey,
is
man,
he's
the
deep.
stuff he be writing, man.
Yeah.
It'd be absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So, what's happening, brother? Hey, man, glad to have you as always. I know we was expecting you last week. I know some of them infected probably had an accident in front of you or something. Couldn't make it over here.
Late call.
Okay. We'll just keep
Is
it
the
at
microphone on?
that. We'll keep it at that.
I can't hear. I want to make sure I can hear. I ain't really hear him.
Oh, yeah. Check his
So
mic.
I mean, that's but that's an awesome segue into the actual subject matter of the night, Teasy.
Yeah.
I mean, how we educate our children about race. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
He just gave a straight class on number one. You need to know. You need to know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes you feel like, should we even be teaching them? Looks like we got to go to class first.
Hey,
Gosh.
man.
But yeah, that's what the subject matter of tonight was. You know, with the climate of the world today, you know, how are we educating, you know, our kids about race relations, racism, that type of thing? Because, you know, it's like I put in my post earlier, you know, you can tell them to stand proud and you know, stand within their race and be proud of it. But you can tell them, you know, do you want to tell them only rock with your own, you know, only do this, only do that? But let's face it, you know, we have to, I mean, honestly, if you really, a lot of people don't want to say it, but honestly, we have to still deal with people of other races.
Yes, most definitely.
You know, you have to, period. There's a lot of people out there that's going to say, nah, man, we could keep our own dollar and out. Hey, I'm telling you something. You're going to have to deal with people of other races. And so, you know, how do we teach our younger ones, our kids, our nephews, you know, our little cousins, you know, how to deal with it without being too angry and also without being, you know, too lenient and letting people walk all over them? You know, give me your opinion on it, MJ. What do you think? And again, people, ain't nothing changed about classic conversations. Ain't nothing. You see these books behind us. Ain't no certificates hanging up. We're not saying that we're experts or nothing like that. We're giving you our opinions, and we hope that you will call in and give us your opinions also.
I'll say where I raised my sons and daughters was to understand who they were, but also take them out. So especially your daughters, as a black man, I think your daughter's first experience, all her experiences, should be with her father, as far as taking her out to candlelight dinner, taking her out, showing them around. My kids, I took them everywhere, and when there was a situation, I dealt with it. Like I remember one time when I was out with my grandfather and how he dealt with me. We had just went to a cattle auction in Kentwood, Louisiana, home of Britney Spears. And he sold about 60 head of Hereford, whiteface Hereford. Those are type of cow. And he used to put his money in a money belt. And we went to a...
Wow. Boy, you went back.
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm putting my age again.
Said a money belt.
We actually went into a store. And I reached in and got the candy. It's an old-fashioned store. You got the candy in the jars, and pickle pig, feed pickle. And he said, get what you want. And I was getting what I wanted. And I remember like it was yesterday. He put his money out to the girl, and young white girl. White girl couldn't have been more than 15, 16. Wouldn't take it. He set it on the, like kind of set it down, and I was kind of bewildered. And then she got the money. He had his hand out, and she put it on the counter. And I said something, because I went to Holy Family at Fort Devens, Mass. And I said, hey, why are you doing that? And my grandfather said, oh, don't worry about it. And his exact words were, that old Peckerwood don't know. And I left out, and I was mad because I wanted to say something. You know, my granddad's like, "No, come on." And we went, and he said, "You don't fight ignorance with ignorance." And he explained to me why she did that. And I said, because he's like, that's probably more money than she'd seen in her life, and she was wondering how a black man had it. And he broke it down. He said, now, I could have cussed out or let you cuss out or say something to her, but then we have to deal with somebody that could be equally as bad. And I said, who? And that's when he broke into the police and black relations with law enforcement and things of that nature. So, I mean, everything with him was a teaching experience. And I think if you treat it like that with your kids, if you take them out and they experience different things, they'll say, hey, why isn't the waiter coming? So I'm not one of those people. And since another thing going back to as a people, we have to start being loud and right.
Yeah.
And what I simply do, I said, excuse me, ma'am, go ahead and call the manager over. I need to talk to him. I don't even deal with the waiter because that waiter is not on my level. I called the manager over and told him exact sequence of events since we sat down. He says, sir, I'm going to comp your meal to you because they hate any brother that can halfway articulate shit. I said, no, you don't have to comp nothing. I'll pay. I need you to correct that waitress, but I don't want her serving me today. And I did that, and she mean-mugged, she walked by and, and everything else. But that taught my kids how to react to ignorance. Right. And that's what and my grandfather taught me that. My dad was the same way. He's an officer in the Army. And so I had a different outlook on it than other people, and I always went to mixed schools. So I know white people put their pants on the same way we do. And I think what hurts us as a people, no matter how educated we get, I've seen some of the most educated brothers I know, when they're confronted with a Caucasian, their whole mannerism and everything changes. And I think the quickest way to stop that, getting back on the subject, is to show your kids the best in how to interact with things, not just the fun things, but just take them out to dinner where they have to use all the forks, and make them order food. I remember, like my son, he had a speech impediment. My daddy has a speech impediment. I have one. And we went to McDonald's. That joker didn't eat that day because he had to order his own food. And he was so intimidated by it. So I kept on doing that to guess what? He ordered his own food. And just simple things like that you do to show them that you're not intimidated by white people, because you can never let nothing pass, because if you let it pass, then that's acceptance.
Right.
And I never wanted to have that type of acceptance in front of my kids, but I also, once again, I'll say it, loud doesn't make right. That's all I got on that.
Great point.
Two things, I took a lot from it, but two things that stuck out. You said that your grandfather was telling you about the relationships between black people and police officers.
Yes.
I mean, I ain't got to age you. You got gray around you. So what year was this? When was this?
That was in the 70s.
Now think about that. Your grandfather was giving you that lesson then. These are the same lessons that we have to give now.
Yeah.
So it comes back to, as much as we think we've actually moved forward, which we have, we actually haven't moved that far forward. Because you're teaching the same lessons. I mean, we actually have to teach our kids some of the same lessons that were taught to us in regards to race relations way back.
I think where the problem stems from is we stopped teaching it for a period of time, because as soon as we weren't called niggers and people didn't throw Coke bottles at us, we stopped believing that, the American
thought
dream
everything was better
is for some people, but the American dream has never been for everybody. And I think as a people, we stopped teaching it. We, just because MTV came out and they were playing our music on their channels and videos, and they were accepting of OJ and accepting of Richard Pryor, and anybody could make them laugh or run a football or shoot a basketball or hit a baseball. They accepted that, so we thought, oh, they accepted all of us. But during that whole time, redlining was going on.
Dude, that was dope right there, what you just said.
It's just a situation where I think it's, if you ever go to the doctor and he says, bend over, and you feel two hands on your shoulders, you know what's coming, right? And I think that's what's happening with us. We just got so enthralled by the fact, oh, they accept us, that we forgot about it, and think about it. That's when we started abandoning everything we had gained. We started abandoning the cities. I'm talking about nice areas. If you go over there in the West End and areas that traditionally have been black with nice houses, we moved out to the suburbs, And my family was different because we moved in, and Decatur was where it was graded. So that's where my dad got a house at. And Decatur's a lot different now than when I grew up. I'll just leave it like that. But it wasn't white flight, it was black flight. White flight happened when it first started, and then it was black flight. It's like we got accepted, now we stopped accepting each other. And white became right. White became the new right, or white became your way. If you weren't in an integrated neighborhood or you didn't move to that area,
That's true, bro.
you know, you weren't it. You weren't shaking.
That's true, bro. That's very true.
Hmm.
That's very true. That's very true. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Flight like a mug. That's deep when you think about it in those terms.
Yeah, bro. My mind is.
So I guess it's a matter of just of where you grew up then, you know, in terms of that change. You know what I mean? Because I think if you were still in certain areas, I don't think you ever saw a difference.
That's true.
You know what I mean? But, you know, if you had the fortunate ability to not be in certain areas and
Right.
then something happened, you'd be like, what? You know what I mean? Or,
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it was everywhere, though. You know, because I
It
can
was
remember
everywhere, yeah.
when Harold Washington, I'm telling my age again, when Harold Washington was the first black mayor of a major city, and I was up in Chicago visiting cousins, and nobody in Chicago, you know what I'm talking about. My cousins went to St. Rita's, CVS, Mendel, and nobody went to the movies in South Chicago. So we went to the Burbs. And we went to the Burbs, and I had a Harold Washington button on. And I was walking with the Harold Washington button, and my cousins, and, you know, Black Stone Rangers, they were like, oh, my, you can't wear that, you can't wear that. And we went out there, and we were followed by a bunch of Caucasian males to the parking lot.
Mm.
And I think that's one thing I love to point out, because I think everybody from the North, and I've lived both places, so I lean more towards the South because I enjoy it more. But Northern racism is just as overt, but I think it's worse in a way because they're taught to stay where they belong. And it holds true to New York. Not
That's
so
true.
much now because
That's
they're
true.
taking over New York. But you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking
Yeah, that's
about?
true.
There's
Yeah.
certain areas that also you can't go to
That's
this
true.
area in New York.
Right.
You get your ass
Yeah.
whooped by the white boys. And Chicago's the same way. You didn't go to the burbs for the same reason we didn't. It ended well that night because of who I was with. But that was simply from wearing a Harold Washington, but nothing else.
Wow.
Nothing else.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think what's happening, it's cloaked itself, and I think it's had a backlash because now everybody that's so-called made it in the black community, Afro-American community, we feel almost guilty for making it, so we're held hostage by the uncleans and the things the uncleans do because we know institutionalized racism exists in America, but we've beat it, so we feel somewhat guilty almost, so we try to reach back. But we don't reach back in a positive way a lot of times because we don't point out the things that we do. And one of the things that, I was listening on the way in, and like I said, when brothers like that, if we would listen more to them instead of people that bounce a basketball or can ride.
Right.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't have a voice, but make people earn their voice, not just because you got 1 million records sold.
Right.
Not just because you can score 30 and push the points. If we start holding the same people in self-esteem, like you said, that's a good point, bringing the gentleman on like that and hear it, because I grew up listening to Alipad. I grew up, different civil rights figures that I would interact with, Hosea Williams. Anybody grew up in Decatur in the 80s knows Hosea Williams if you hung out at Burger King, Church's Chicken, and things of that nature. And he tell us different stories of Martin Luther King, and that used to literally be my highlight. I know what I do. I see him parked, I knock on the window. He said, oh, go get me a two-piece. And I go get him a two-piece, bring it back to him, and he sit up there and talk to us. And I enjoyed that more than, because I already got a girlfriend who was sitting there, and he tells stories about Martin Luther King and how some people perpetrate. But I tell you what, people like Hosea Williams, he fed the hungry 365 days out of the year. It wasn't a show. Black mega churches listen.
Please.
Just don't eat on every other Saturday when you have your church T-shirt on.
Right. Or just for Thanksgiving.
Or Thanksgiving, correct.
Right.
That's good stuff. That's a true story, though. So,
Loud but right. I like that too.
Yeah, I like that. And
Like
and that's a great way of teaching, not just for race. That's just a great way of teaching. Period.
Period.
You know what I mean? Just how to resolve, how to handle certain situations. Man, it don't have to be loud. Don't have to be cuss. Don't have to be none of that stuff. I mean, you can be so much more effective without it. I mean, you can cut folk up and down, boy, just talking just like
By
this.
just being nice.
Exactly.
They can light you up.
Yep. By just being nice, you can really, like you said, you can really hurt them. And sometimes it takes a lot of effort, especially
Sometimes
when
you might just outthinking them.
Yeah, because
Because
sometimes
you're thinking and they're not.
They'll hit something, boy, and you just want to snap, but you have to think about it and go ahead and come back at them, in that nice tone. And like you said, that'll usually get them. But I like that. If you're gonna be loud, you need to be right. But
Being
then
loud
why
don't
be loud
make
again?
right. Yeah,
But why
don't
be
make
loud
right.
at all if you're right?
Well, and I think a lot of it has to deal with command of the English language. I mean, we're Americans, face it. We're African Americans, but we're Americans.
Yeah.
And spoken language here is English. And I think if, we got to command it and be in command of it. And I think that helps a lot because, face it, I mean, a lot of times we interact with people. How many times, Sykes, did people go to jail not for what they did, but because of their mouth?
Way too many.
Or they talked themselves into jail.
Talk themselves in jail.
We trying to let you go, but we only going to be so many motherfuckers.
They only gonna be with so many.
Exactly.
And you got one more.
Yeah. And see what happens a lot of times.
You only got one more.
And like I said, I think as a people, if we teach more just everyday living, because we don't want to own up to that. But I said, like, a lot of us, we moved up and out, and we're nowhere near where a lot of us other people are. Because African Americans on all levels in America, but there's only a few up here. Middle class is like this, and then others are like this. And that doesn't make them bad. It just makes them, a lot of them are in that situation because they were never taught. It's babies having babies. The U.S. government was involved in bringing crack into the neighborhoods. But think about the detriment, how many lives that destroyed. And then when you have institutionalized racism, redlining, biased police tactics, all that going against us, and then you're not in command of the English language, or you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball, because at the end of the day, I don't care how many, bean pies you sell or whatever, at the end of the day, you have to interact in a racist society, and to be able to make money in that society, you need to put the best package forward. That's not cooning, that's not assimilating, that's just being the best person you can be to move your family to the next level. And I think if we go back and teach that way, and honor, like, say, when, don't make such a big, I'm not saying don't make a big deal about it, because I was an athlete, but I think if we start making a bigger deal out of scholars, because I remember first time I met Bob Herner and Dale Murphy of the Braves was because I was on honor roll, and you used to get tickets to the games. That's one thing the Braves did. That's right when Channel 17 hit. And so they were doing the pan shot, and then I don't know how many times I was sitting behind the dugout because they'd bring everybody in just for that one shot. So, I got to interact with the Braves players and saw that, but it was not because I was a good athlete, but purely because of my grades.
Right.
And if we start honoring that, the one person I think stands out above all else is LeBron James. LeBron James isn't talking about Black Lives Matter. No, he's talking about making lives matter. And the lives he matters is a black youthie in his school. His school, some other brothers, has been trying to put together a school for years. LeBron James did it. So he put not his mouth, but his money where his mouth is.
Right.
And if you notice, LeBron can hang with the best of them. He's 100% down. But see how he sounds when he gets in front of the camera. What did he do? He pulled his brothers up, and it wasn't just in name and dapping up and getting tattoos together. It was the fact that the ones that didn't have it, he sent them to school to get exactly what the group needed, and there's not a dime that goes to anybody outside his group.
That's right.
And I mean, but that's not celebrated. Think about
And
if
it
that
should
would
be.
be.
It
and I'm not.
should-
and this might sound racist, but it's not meant to be racist.
Well, see, the thing is, not to cut you off, but that's the same thing that not Kevin, Garnett. He did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Now he didn't blow up the way LeBron and his crew did, but he did the exact same thing. I want to say it's hard to say, but it makes me think that LeBron kind of saw that and figured, let me do the same. I mean, KG took all his boys in Minnesota with him, put them all in a cul-de-sac, and made all them go to school. And whether they work for him or not, I don't know if that was, you're going to work for me after you get to go to school. And I don't think LeBron did that either. I just think that this thing just came together the way it did.
No, he did.
No,
that.
there's a
his is
strategic.
organized.
There's
His is
very
organized.
strategic.
So his was, but
They knew what everybody did best.
shout to KG. He did the same. He did the same thing. I mean, They put all his boys in a cul-de-sac. These was kids. They was 18, 19, 20 years old. Each one of them had their own house.
But the thing that I think that hurts us as a people, because we don't face it. When they took Bill Cosby out, that took the only shot we had of only in a station unless Oprah and what's his name, Tyler Perry get together and go hard. But what happens is, like, say if it was the Falcons quarterback, and imagine if he had brought all his friends up with him and everybody was an integral part of him and he kept his crew tight, there would be a 60 minutes expose on that.
You better believe it.
But they'll talk about, is LeBron as good as Jordan? Is his blonde this and this? I'll say right now, hands down, as
They're gonna
for the
keep
black community,
they keep
LeBron
him,
blows them away.
They're keeping them in the sports realm, just like you said. They're gonna keep him right there instead of celebrating other
But
part of it.
They don't talk about that. If you look at the
Exactly.
fact he put together a school, and those kids are doing exactly what we all knew they would do with giving a chance our
Giving a
kids do
chance.
because we
Yep.
moved to better school districts.
Yeah.
He did it the right way, but think about it. You got all these black educators, the same ones that screwed up the Atlanta public school system and fraudulently filled out tests. Those same administrators, not one person from the Atlanta public school system has reached out to LeBron James and said, "Hey, LeBron, could you do this here?" Or try to get it together where it becomes commonplace. Okay, what would happen if we had only male and female schools in the inner city instead of a charter schools? Because the only time charter schools, Atlanta public school system, come about is when gentrification hits, like over there in
East Lake area.
East Lake area. They have that multi-million-dollar glass building, looks good and all that money, but it didn't come about until the demographics changed in that area.
Right.
So why not, if you can do the same thing, and if that's not blatant racism, by reverse, but anyway, if you turn around and you said, okay, let's do that and off of Donnelly Howell, Bankhead Highway, and let's put an all-male school, all-female school, and let's see if that makes a difference, and put them in uniforms all the way through 12. Yeah, you're going to get some people that say, no, I want my kid to be able to know. But think about the black people, the African-American people that are going to be down with that. Because now it's not going to stress their pockets. I got to make sure my kid has the right sneakers. And then you have a curriculum and you only teach, you teach black history's actually part of a curriculum year-round. It's not a 1 month out the year where everybody does a report on Martin Luther King or whoever.
Right.
I've seen so much on Martin Luther King, I want to see nothing else.
Right.
Not saying, he's a great figure now, but I'm saying
There were
there's
so many
other
more.
people.
So many more.
Like, I think Hosea Williams blows them all out the water other than Martin Luther King for everything he did up until his death. He never stopped. He took time out at 11 after the games. We went up there, and he sit there and hold school for all of us, tell us about stuff. We used to have shows like Alley Pat, where you heard black men talking about African-American, when African-American is black, and how to deal with certain situations, just like we're doing now. We need to bring that back. And like I said, I think it ain't white people. I think we've lost respect for each other. And lost respect for what it
most
means to be
definitely.
black.
Yeah, that's most definitely. Let me on this pop when you started talking about the charter schools, but it brought me to something else. Would you two agree that racism is mostly embedded in the older communities, older white communities, the older white people?
I mean, that's where it starts. It's something just handed down.
The reason why I ask is because, okay, your kid's out in Douglasville, mine was out in Paulding. So it wasn't around black people all the time. It was around white folks.
Same with my kids.
So when you, at least when I spoke to mine about it, he looked at me like, man, what you talking about? These my dudes. They ain't, they're not racist, but at the same time, I also know that one of these days you're gonna come against it. It's gonna be in your face. So
I tell this story all the time for my kids, right? So, I coached for a long time, and we didn't necessarily, as young kids, discuss quote unquote racism. You know what I mean? They're growing up 3, 4, 5, 6 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they were amongst, like you said, they were multiracial schools, but it kind of, it's amazing how racism grows because it kind of just grows into the environment. And let me say what I mean by that is, like for their baseball team. I coached this baseball team since those kids were 3, 4 years old, right? And I coached them all the way up till probably 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. Most of the same team. A few kids interchangeable here and there. There was a core group of kids that came up together. And as young kids, man, I could show you pictures and videos of them just
They're all
always
just kicking it.
Mm-hmm. There was racism, there was no difference. They didn't even see the difference in each other. You know what I'm saying? But boy, when they hit middle school, early part of middle school, 11, 12 years old, you started seeing the separation.
I know when they hit.
You know what I'm saying? You started seeing the separation. You started seeing in the dugout, the white kids were here, black kids were there. In the dugout, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same kids.
Yeah. Same ones that was hanging out.
They were hanging out. You know what I mean? You hear about a party, and such was at the party, and the other group wasn't even invited to that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Same. You know what I mean? It was just like, wow. I'm sitting there watching it. I'm literally watching the divide.
That's a lack of actual integration. I think everything in America now is done for show. They want everything to appear that way. And I think as African Americans, we've got our head in the sand, like an ostrich, because America's passing us by, and we don't care to look at it. We're 13%, 12.5%, 13% of the population. Now, if anybody watches TV now, that African American has been replaced with an Asian or an Indian. The black man has been replaced. If he's dark-skinned black male, he's gonna have a white wife. If she's a dark-skinned black female, she's gonna have a white husband. And sometimes in between. But you know how they want to present African Americans now on TV is mixed or assimilated. They don't want to show Mfume and his 2 kids with dreads. They don't want to show that. And we thinking the people that have made it, it kind of eases our conscience and our soul to believe that everything's okay. Just look at TV. Hey, look at, so-and-so. They're best friends, and they want to see that. I grew up in a situation, being an Army brat, bouncing all over, where I truly had mostly white friends growing up. When I went to when I came here and got my first chance to go to a black school, I lost my damn mind. My sister went private, which St. Pius, and I stayed in, well, it wasn't even my kids, 50%, 50-50, but still, it was the most black people I've seen in my life other than a family reunion. And I think what's happening now, I think it's for show. Just because they play rap music doesn't mean they like black people.
Right.
Okay, so that right there, because that happened to me too. In North Carolina, I was in a mixed school, and most of the schools we played against was mixed, except for this one. 90, I'm saying now, I'm giving the benefit. I think it was 110% black. I mean, it was all black folks. And going up there my freshman year, like I said, I don't think I really paid too much attention to it. You know, I saw some cats that I know, because it wasn't that far, so I knew saw some cats I know, talked to them, played the game, left. Sophomore year, kind of took notice of it. But then my junior year, when I actually was not playing, I didn't play that year, and I just went to the game. And I was sitting there like, yo, it was the highest number of black people I'd seen in one space at one time. And like I said, these today, with everything that's going on social media, all the stuff that's on TV, like I said, you're showing the supposedly better families now that they're mixed and all of this type stuff, all the stuff happening with the cops and everything. You know, when a kid grows up in a mixed environment and then all of a sudden they go someplace and it's just totally black, or they go someplace where it's totally white, you know, what type of, when they come back to you with questions, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, I'm again with that same experience he had, man, because, you know, living in Virginia, you know, it was predominantly black. We moved to Texas, it was mixed. Moved to Germany, you know, it might be another black person in the class if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And when you do, you're like,
Hey, yeah, I finally got one.
It was I'm with you on that, because when I was in the military in Germany, everybody that had kids usually sent their kids back to the States. Black people sent their kids back to the States to go to school. They would send their wife back to the States and let the kid go to school.
They did them a disservice as they did, boy. I'd have been so mad at my mom. She just sent me back, boy. I love
it differently. I think it helps because, like you said, the different settings. My son went to Emory and Henry, is a private school, college, and he assimilated great because he'd already been around white people. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's not intimidated by it. But I think what you do yourself a than HBCUs, I'm all for it. What I'm saying is when you don't take the time, like I said, to take them out, show them around, let them know what's really up, attend the festival. Attend the Highland Games in Stone Mountain or something like that, just to show your kids that there is something different. But I think the worst thing you can do is, it's not that big of a shock because they're in control. They run America. So if you take that kid that's been into a 50-50 school and send him to an all-white school, it's no issue. If you send him to an integrated school, it's no issue. Now, when he goes to college at HBCU, it's a culture shock. Because I got people in my family that didn't, oh, shit, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a culture shock. But when you flip that coin around and it's a black youth, no matter how well he's raised, what his GPA is, when you put him in an all-white setting and he's never been around them, and unless he's been raised right, which it very seldom happens because he's no opportunity, he's intimidated. Face it, because kids coming from a certain segment of our population, the only time they see somebody white is a doctor, a teacher, a fireman, a police officer. Everybody that's in control of the world as they see it at that point in their life. So now you're taking that kid and you're throwing them in an all-white situation. And that's why a lot of times we wonder why black kids don't score higher on standardized tests. My kids didn't have a problem because in the home was spoken. Now, we can joke around, they can kid around, but at the end of the day, my kids ain't answering me, what up?
Right.
What be up or what be happening? I don't allow it. Now, I know that once I left the door, of course, when they were with their friends, they're going to do it because I did it. I also happen to be around black people when I went to City Cross. Oh, my God. But the fact is that I also had a stronger base, actually, on what it meant to be a black man. Because my dad taught me from an early age, being a black military officer, black kids say, don't embarrass me out here, you know. Don't do this because I always knew you're held to a higher standard.
Yeah, and whatever you did was actually a reflection on your parents.
Absolutely.
No, and on us as a people. I was taught by my granddad, my dad, and my uncles that it's a reflection on black people when we mess up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's funny to say that because I grew up not on the reflection on black people. I grew up trying to make sure I wasn't acting a fool out in public or doing something stupid because I didn't want it to reflect on my mother. Then later, you know, my things broadened out for me a little bit, you know, and I recognized, you know, that we as a race has to show and show the right way, that type of thing. That's when that came down
I'm maturing that with you. My mama, I was scared.
Oh yeah,
I was like, well, I cannot let Miss Brady find boys.
I'm telling you, that's what it was, bro. It was. I knew because she was a single parent.
They want them problems.
She was a single parent, and back in them days, let's face it, you know, if you left your husband and whatever happens to you, it's your fault. I didn't want that to come down on her, so you know, I was thinking about stealing something. I made sure that I stole it the right. No, I'm stopping. Made sure I ain't get caught. No,
that's real, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's. I grew up that way.
And it's a lot about who you hang with. That's the one thing I stress with my boys.
Me too.
Is who you hang with goes along. It's a reflection of you. You know what I mean? I tell them all the time, man, be careful of the friends. Be careful, you know what I mean? Because if they up to this, you know, they're going to try to pull you into it. You know what I mean? And you got to be.
And the thing is, like you said, perception.
Jump, man.
Even if they don't pull you into it, they did it last week, but not this week. You're with them. Guess what?
Associated.
You did it last week too.
You associated, man.
You know, so
that's one thing I stress. Is be careful about your associates, man. Be careful about them, and I think that's one thing that helped assisted me. You know what I mean, in terms of just again, because I was scared of my mama. You know what I mean? I didn't want them problems. You know,
man.
You know, so shoot, bro.
But my mama did most of the ass whooping.
Oh man.
My dad is more so I didn't want to disappoint him. You know, I never wanted my mom to tell my dad because he'd set the rules and the laws, and you know, and my mom would enforce everything. You know, but like I said, I think if we put it out there like the dialogue we're having now, but they start having those dialogues in churches and things like I'm a strong advocate for teaching black youth how to interact with police. I'm a strong advocate of just teaching them how to act, period. Because the fact of the matter is, like we said so many times on this show, we don't carry guns to protect ourselves from white people.
Yeah.
You know,
it's sad, and you know what? There's a lot of people that want to argue that point, but it's a sad state, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
it's the truth.
And you know, the thing that gets me though, I think really from being so many years in law enforcement is the fact that you see so many bright-eyed kids, and 3 years later or 6 months later you see them, and that shine's gone out their eye. So many things happen in our communities that take a kid's love of life away.
That's very true.
And then, because I can't imagine seeing some of the calls I've gone on, some of the things I've had to do, and seeing kids standing by looking, and instead of the family doing this, they all sitting there right there with them. Right. Kids running around, and right there, and there's a dead body. And then we've become so accepting. I think, honestly, as a people, we're all traumatized to a certain level.
Yeah.
And until we start treating that, or they actually have somebody study it and find out what effect that actually has on us, we can't move forward. Because you see kids that just are dead-eyed, just like when you know, in a shooting situation. You see how an officer looks after he kills somebody. Or when you see somebody people don't, the things they don't rap about are when we get a 15, 16, 20-year-old that's killed somebody, and I worked fugitive for years, and we pick those people up, most of them are relieved because they've been living in an abandoned house. It ain't like all them homeboys that don't dap them up.
Right.
Nobody wants anything to do with them because they're hot.
Right.
Their family ain't letting them go around, and they literally have nowhere to go to where they're they are relieved when we lock them up. Haven't eaten in 2-3 days. but nobody lets that part of it be known.
Right.
The only one they want to hear about is like when Gucci. Gucci killed 2 people. Man.
All the cool stuff, none of the real
They don't
stuff.
like not the real stuff. You don't have Gucci's money, you're going to jail.
Right. I hear the phone ring.
Yeah, got a call on there.
Caller,
Yes, sir.
you there?
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, how you doing?
How you
What's
doing?
happening? Go ahead and state your
It's
name.
BJ.
Who?
Is it DJ?
It's BJ.
BJ, what up, bro?
What's going on, JT?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just sitting there listening to you guys, and you guys are talking some real good stuff, man. And I just wanted to chime in because, I got 4 kids. My daughters are the oldest, 23 and 21, and they're pretty much grown and understand what's going on in the world today. But my boys are like 13 and 14, and with all this stuff that's going on with racism and injustice, they're a little confused and trying to understand, why when they have white friends that don't treat them any different, but then they see the things going on the news and then they hear all this other stuff going on. And what I teach them is the truth. I teach them the truth. I also try to educate them about our history, about where we are versus where we were. But even though we can see the mountaintop, it's still a hard climb, But at the same time, I teach away because of what you see going on or what you may experience in school or in these streets. Come and talk to me or talk to your mom and vent, because I would rather them vent with us than to go out here and vent in these streets and find themselves in, in some trouble. So I'm just like the brother on the end, old school. We got to get back to, how they used to say, it takes a village to raise a child.
All right.
We got to get back to where we're uniting and educating our children and educating other people's children that will allow us to educate them, will receive what we're trying to tell them, but most importantly, continue being that example to them. Because you can tell them anything, but it's a lot about what they see in you.
Facts. Big facts there. Absolutely. So have your kids experienced direct, the 13 and 14-year-old, have they had any direct experience with racism in their school, whether it was with them or direct?
Yeah.
And how did they deal with it? Did they come to you about it?
Well, they went to their mom. And here's the thing. They stay with their mother in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're in the heart of it.
It just brings back to a Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor.
I remember speeding ticket I got.
Right.
Miss Rudolph.
Old Mudfoot. Yeah, but they have experience. And in fact, one year I took them camping at one of their Cub Scout meetings, and
Still there?
me not knowing that we spent the night, but the other black family left, and we were the only black folks there with all these rednecks.
Going in and out.
Because even as an adult, I could see the eyes looking at us. They couldn't, but then they couldn't understand why the other white kids wouldn't play with them. So they definitely have dealt with it and seen it firsthand, but they just didn't understand what it was, completely.
Right. And when you explained it to them, how receptive to them were they? To it were they?
They're pretty receptive. My boys are pretty smart, and they understood. And one thing that I teach them is always ask questions when you don't understand. And there are never even any dumb questions, only ones you don't ask. So they're very receptive to it, and they still trying to grasp the concept of why do other people of different color hate them because of the color of their skin. And as much as I can, I try to talk to them and explain to them, but more or less teach them the history. Not in a way for them to hate, to reciprocate that hate, but just like my man said,
the ignorance of others, you don't want to reciprocate that.
Right.
So you want to rise up above that by showing that I understand, and it's not my burden that you hate me. That's your burden.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. That's a fact there, brother.
Okay, BJ, being that you're in the entertainment world and everything, and you have to deal with the people of other races and everything. Have you had to have that type of conversation with any of your kids in regards to them standing proud in who they are, but at the same time, not being so aggressive to where they look like the angry black person?
Yes, I've had that conversation with especially my oldest daughter, because I shared with her a time that we were on tour and we were out in Texas, and we were actually confronted by some off-duty white police officers that were actually calling us the N-word. They were calling us niggas. And how I had to stand my ground. At first, my emotions rose up, but I explained to her how I had to remember who I was, and the fact that they were attacking us because of the color of our skin meant that they were full of ignorance. And to me, that showed me that they were afraid of me. They were afraid of us. So I explained to my daughter that meant that you had power. They were afraid of the potential that you had in you to rise up and be everything that you could be. And you got to remember that when you faced with racism and adversity, that you are somebody, and these people are more afraid of you than you should be afraid of them. And use that as a way for you to rise up and not show any ignorance towards them as they show that towards you. So I've had that conversation with my oldest daughter, and she's going on through life and has blossomed into a very talented and beautiful young woman,
Good deal. Good deal. Hey, man, I appreciate you calling in. Just in case y'all didn't know, y'all remember the song Dickie Ride? That right there. That's my man BJ.
That's what's up.
That's my man BJ.
He's on the playlist.
Those Southern players. Southern players. Yeah, boy. Yeah, that's him.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
That's what's up.
Hey, man.
Y'all boys keep doing what y'all doing, man.
Hey, listen.
Appreciate y'all.
Next week, I'm gonna make sure to showcase your music on the show. I didn't download it like I was supposed to do this week, so I had Sagas join up, but I got you next week.
Oh, that's what's up. I appreciate it.
My man. Appreciate you calling in, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Y'all brothers be strong, man.
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, I'd like to say to everybody that's listening, he did bring up a good point. He said there's some off-duty police officers were cursing him and calling him the N-word. People don't. He handled it the perfect way. If somebody that has the ability to take your life and take your freedom, then and there is not the time to fight. It'll be like Custer's last stand. It's going to result in you maybe being shot, but definitely going to jail. The best way to do that, and I should have followed up with him, but it was a good call. But I always like to ask people, did you file a complaint? Did you call for a supervisor? Those are your rights, and more people need to start exercising them. There's a thing called body cam now. Every jurisdiction, like Atlanta police only had 2 people that can delete a body cam. One was the chief, and I don't know who the other person was. But it's not something that you can easily get rid of. So anytime you see a body cam on somebody and he's acting inappropriately, do law enforcement a favor, file a complaint, or call a supervisor out to the scene. But definitely go ahead and also know you do have a right to film police officers. They cannot tell you to cut off your camera, but they can tell you, if you hear these words now so you don't end up in jail. Step back, you're interfering with my crime scene, step back to here. And they show you where they want to step back to, please do that, because if you stay inside that area, you will be placed on arrest for obstruction. Okay? So you have a right to film. You do not have a right to interfere with their lawful occupation. And if you do that, you'll be incarcerated. So continue to film, it's always good, but make sure you follow directions while you're doing it. There's nothing that says you have a right to film. It does not say you have a right to endanger, interfere with the safety, or mess up a crime scene. I just told you 4 things that's going to result in your arrest. So be smart about it, but help each other out. Like if you see something going on and you don't feel safe about it, that doesn't mean you can rush in on the scene and interfere with that arrest, but you can stand there and watch. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions. Officers, a true and right officer, likes answering questions. Just say, hey, excuse me, officer, I know you're busy right now, but can you talk to me when this is over? If there's things you can do to put yourself on an even playing field with that officer, number one, call a supervisor to the scene. And if he refuses, tell him, just say, hey, look, you're on body cam. Are you telling me there's no supervisor working tonight, or the supervisor's not going to come out to this call and I'm requesting him? Thank you, officer. Just tell him thank you and follow up Monday or follow up that next morning. You know, that's the way to handle it.
And please, that's something else you can teach our young people, our kids, and actually some older people need to know too. It's not a punk move to stand down. It is not a punk move to stand down, and like you said, follow up. Make the report. That is not a punk move. No, too many people out here now feel that they got to buck back.
Well, I too, and I'll speak on that. I think one of the most ignorant things we're doing as a people right now is intentionally confronting police officers and being an asshole when you've been speeding, it's on body cam, it's on tape, and then you're arguing with the guy yelling at him and deliberately being combative. Because it's all cute until you get that wrong one, and now there's such a thing that's called dead right. You may be right, but you're dead now. Right. You don't know who's on the other end of that gun. You don't know how he was trained. And I'm not saying, I was a police officer 30 years, and I know all officers aren't created equal. But I think as a people, we need to quit putting those videotapes out that are teaching kids the wrong way to do it. And everybody's getting 1,000 or 10,000 likes, and people say, man, did you see what happened? And I always say the same thing. Did you see the 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes before that officer used the force he used? We know there's bad officers out there, but a lot of things that we're jumping on the bandwagon with was dead wrong. And a lot of times people end up dead because they're wrong.
Before we get that call in, let me go through this right here. This young lady, Tiara, she said that she loves the topic. Racist plays a harsh part in these states today, and it's so sad. She said her children is aware of it because she sits down with them whenever they watch the local news together. When the news goes off, she makes them write what they want to see, the positive outcome in the world, especially in our country. She said racism shouldn't exist, and we should love one another. That's her opinion. Black, blue, green, color shouldn't matter. So that's how she's working with her kids, is that she's sitting with them and then having them to write out a positive outcome of what they saw.
Oh, that's real good.
That's real good.
It's dope.
That's one of my kids' punishments, write papers. Hey, people, start doing that.
Hey,
When
man,
kids mess up,
they
make them write
hate
papers.
writing.
Yeah,
Boy,
What a passion.
My sons, they used to hate
man,
I'll
boy,
throw a book at them.
100 times. Write
End of
it.
the week, or you ain't gonna, hey, pick a chapter, make it write it up.
Write it 100 times, and it better be in a straight line. If it's not, you're going to do it all over again. We got a call on the line? Okay, all right.
Yeah, they definitely hate writing. That brought me back to while waiting on the caller, man. I remember my rude awakening, boy. We came back from Germany, man, and we first went to Virginia first. We moved down to Dallas, Texas, boy. South Oak Cliff. Anybody live in Dallas, Texas, know about Oak Cliff. When
I
I
don't
tell
live
you,
there, and I know.
when you go from being one of 2 or 3 blacks in your classroom to everybody, that was a rude way. I mean, but you went from, living in Germany, man, you had all the freedom in the world, man. We 5th, 6th, 7th grade, man, we going downtown by ourselves, just a group of kids. You did everything by yourself.
Walking the base movie theater together.
Everything, man.
Pack of kids.
Yeah, man, pack of kids, bro, like it wasn't nothing. You on your bikes, they go to Dallas, boy, my mama say, hey, you know all that junk over with, don't you?
Yeah.
Hey, man, you talking about going on lockdown, man. We like, we can't do what?
Get out of school, come home.
Hey, bro, straight home. It's back to the light bulb thing again, boy. That was a rude awakening, boy. I tell you the truth.
Yeah, but I think education over anything, because like I said, in my last couple years with Atlanta. I was lieutenant in Zone 1. And I had troops under me, but it was the first time I'd actually hadn't done anything high speed. It was just basic policing my whole career. You know how my career went. And it was probably some of my most enjoyable years, but it was also some of my most disheartening because you realize I didn't grow up a certain way. And being in the high speed stuff, you see the worst of the worst. And it kind of desensitizes you to it, and you don't really see that plight until you dip down in it. And I didn't realize just how bad we had gotten as a people. Because you got to realize, I'm like that white boy in the suburbs, or like that brother, that's made it.
Right.
You know, the only thing we see is the news. And when you see what people are going through,
Every day.
it's every day. I'm not talking about as an officer, you see it, but you don't see it if you're not right in the trenches.
Right.
But when you're right in the trenches, it's easy for me as a lieutenant, or it's easy when you're SWAT or fugitive or narcotics or different units, and you're riding by it, or you're going in and hitting the door and leaving, locking somebody up and leaving. But when you see and listen to the stories, and you realize, like I used to tell my guys all the time, I don't want to see no pink. And pink is traffic tickets. If any of y'all are out there, call in and let them know. And I only want to see green. Green's a misdemeanor felony arrest, because I don't believe when you're in the hood, giving somebody a ticket is actually, okay, now that kid can't go to Lakewood to watch the game this weekend because daddy's got to pay that. And tickets ain't no joke anymore. You're talking about $175, $150 or more. And so it's, it's little things like that. But if we all start not just jumping on the first bandwagon and making heroes of people that were mistreated by police and abused by the police, that's not a good reason for us to make them into a martyr or make them into a hero. They're not a hero. It's good that the incident happened so we can get rid of that bad apple police officer or bring more attention to what's going on to us as a community. But don't make somebody that's a criminal into a hero, no matter if they get killed or not. So sorry, so sad, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You can't pick the verses in the Bible you want to live by or part of the Bible. It's the whole thing in totality. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. Same thing with officers. When an officer goes out there and he's doing wrong, I'm not going to name the name, but you know the officer I'm talking about. You know what he was doing and he got killed.
Right.
And so there's things that happen in our communities as law enforcement that that officers are ashamed of and officers want to happen. Believe me, when Rodney King went down, officers were cheering. When the OJ verdict came out, that's probably the most divisive I've ever seen law enforcement, was when the OJ verdict got read. You got some officers that were so upset that they actually went home. Some white officers actually went home. They were that upset about the verdict. And you had black officers that they were excited because they knew what it meant.
Right.
So it's polarized. You see what America really is from a law and law enforcement more than probably any other job.
That's a fact, man.
Like I said, white America is changing, but you got to realize probably 80% of our population is New York, Philly, Cleveland, Atlanta, LA, Detroit, Chicago. If you take those cities away, probably be that easy 80% of our population. Maybe throw a couple other cities in there, chocolate cities. But once you get outside of those cities, once you get out of Metro Atlanta, Atlanta changes. You go down to South Georgia, it's a whole difference.
Whole different game.
So when I say America hasn't changed, I don't think it has, because you have people that grew up just like black people have a hard time dealing with white people if they went to all black school. It's the same goes for white people. When they grew up in all white areas, and the first time they come into contact with somebody black is normally what? Executing their duties. Be it a police officer, be it a teacher, be it a doctor, be it a bus driver, be it a firefighter. They're always in a position over those people, because the only time they see black people are what? On the news and the movies. And until recently, until the last 10 years, how were we portrayed in movies?
Always the bad guy.
Yeah. And who was their hero? Everybody, white people get a T-shirt. JJ, his ignorant ass. And how was his dad portrayed?
Right.
You might as well put Willie B across his forehead because it made him into a non-thinking, violent animal, you know? That's
Very
why
true.
he left the show.
Yep. That's why he left.
Yeah, the young lady Tiara, she said she lives in South Georgia. She said there's some nasty ones down there. BJ said, teach, bro. But, you know, I know we all over the place talking about raising kids and racism and everything. But I was looking at a TV show called The Rookie.
I love that show.
Bruh, did you see it the other night when they had the ride along?
Yeah.
And it reminded me of what we was talking about when she was asking them, so what, when y'all get here, y'all have to do all this yourself? And, you know, they was like, yeah, you know, we got to be the psychologist, the psychiatrist. You know, we got to be the negotiator. We got to be it all once we get there, all on our own. You know, and she was asking, she was a college professor and wrote a book.
That's an outstanding show.
Yeah, that's a great show. Old dude, yeah, it's a good show. Sorry, y'all, yeah. The Rookie, ABC, Sunday nights.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good show.
You know, and another thing I think, you know, I'll echo on that. So many people, black and white, think that, yeah, they should have a psychiatrist come out. There's not enough psychiatrists to deal with the trauma in the black community. How the hell you think they're going to get psychiatrists to ride along with police officers? Every single call, literally in zone 1 or zone 5, is dealing with somebody that's having some type of mental anguish or breakdown.
I don't think, you know what, man, I just don't think especially when I be having these conversations with, you know, civilians, people who've never, I don't think they even have any idea the number of calls that go on through the course of just one shift. Not the 24-hour shift, just one 8-hour shift. I don't think they have any earthly idea the number of.
I think you got all day to drive around, drive across town,
Hey,
out your beat, not your zone.
It's not real.
On radio, don't have
Hey,
a whole
man.
lot on radio.
And then one thing you see on police shows a lot of time on TV, you know, and it may be in some cities, but there's always 2 officers riding together. Me and my aunt, we be having these conversations, and she was like, well, I was like, the majority of my career, I was, you know, in that car, I was solo. You know what I mean? There was no partner. You know what I mean? That was, the only time I ever had a partner is when we were working, you know, outside the police car. But in the police car, bro, I've never had an actual partner. Never. There's not enough police officers.
Tell you what, man, y'all are really talented to work them laptops and drive too. That's some talent. That's some talent. You know, in the TV shows, you have one person working a laptop, but I see them cops pull up behind people. I'm like, damn, boy, he's on a whole laptop.
But it's the worst thing about law enforcement, because I can say that because I used to get on my guys. They would literally be in the same precinct and say you and me on a call together. Well, you'd say, hey, Psych, come here, hey, man, what the fuck happened? Them motherfuckers would sit there and text each other. And they got to the point I had to get in my sergeant's asses because I was, hey, you know, why don't you 26 on that call? So, I'm about to say his name. I said, why don't you 26 on that call?
That means arrive.
You know, I got in his ass, and he says, no, LT. He texted me. That's what and I the next 5 roll calls, I said, we will not have any more of that shit. Because once it's helping the people. Because I want documentation of everything that happened. That can hurt the officer, but it can also save the officer's ass if he's calling for help and asking that supervisor, hey, this is what I got.
But if you texting, you're right.
But you texting, and that's not a city.
Right.
I tell my sergeant, I said, that's not a city cell phone.
Right.
So if they text you from the personal cell phone, everything you do on that phone, open records, is going to be shown to the jury. All your quirks, all your pictures, and everything else. And your wife might be in the audience. So,
your pictures?
I say that jokingly, but, you know, it's just amazing me how people today, and it's not just citizens, law enforcement they're not good communicators. I know one reason I can come up here and be on this mic because I've been communicating for the last 30 years. I've talked to people at their worst, violent, try to talk people off a ledge, you know, shooting incidents and still have to function as a supervisor. So you see that, and now these guys, they're just as desensitized as the citizens we're policing. And I think that's something too. Take them PlayStations away or give your kids, like I do, well, used to a period of time that they can use it. Just don't let your kid, but see, what we become is what we used to talk about them about. Remember what every comedian had a joke about, the white kid at the store. Now, how many times you seen black people do shit that back in the day would have got your ass knocked the fuck out? And so it's not there anymore. The communication isn't there between the parent and the child. And I think that extends a little bit from, it's like we've assimilated and taken everything from them. But when they take from us, they just take our best. They take our music, because jazz right now is 100% white. Good jazz. They're in the blues. And I'm not saying anything about it. I mean, I love that part of it, but the part I hate is when we were growing up, did you hear about black people popping pills? You'd be ostracized.
Popping now.
Yeah, you popping pills, doing lines, heroin. We're allowed to be in our music. I mean, I'm going to be different because I have no association with anybody in entertainment. So I'm just going to speak it. This is what the show is for. Until we get to the point where we start ostracizing entertainers and rappers and people that do stuff that's a detriment to our community, we need to start breeding public enemies, KRS-One.
It's like somebody should have taught Paul Pierce. We got a caller. That stuff he did online is stupid.
He's a hater.
Caller, you there?
Hey, so how y'all doing tonight?
What's up, Jaron?
Hello?
Oh, that's your guy.
What's good, brother?
No, how y'all?
Good, man. What's happening?
I just
Good, bro.
Yeah, I don't know where to chime in at tonight, man. Y'all been bouncing around and covering a lot of good subjects.
You know how I get up here sometimes, man. We come in with a subject and then somebody, we kind of start talking about things and we keep it rolling. Chime in on it all, bro. Go ahead. We got a couple minutes left. Go ahead.
Just a couple.
No, bro, I'm long-winded. I'll chime for too long, especially long-winded. I like listening to Mr. Infected up there tell things how it is.
Yeah, see, this is a fan of the show. You got your nickname down, so Mr. Infected. Okay, well, I'll tell you what.
I say all that out of love for bro, because bro be right on point, though.
Oh, no doubt. So, well, chime in on this part in regards to the racism with the kids. You have anything to say about that in regards to raising them and making them aware, but at the same time keeping them to where they're not so aggressively aware that they're a detriment to themselves?
Yeah, so that's a real sticky thing, simply because of it's hard to teach the kids something that the adult generation doesn't do that well themselves.
Amen.
That's what we talked about.
So, being able to teach the kids to be a proud black person and learn when to stand down and all that kind of stuff. Those are things that, like I say, if our generation aren't doing too good at it themselves, they're not going to really be able to teach. But what we really need to do is organize in platform forms in which the message is given to them simply by association in what they associate themselves with. We need to be able to use the entertainment platform for edutainment and get them to understand certain things.
Like that.
Expound on that a little bit.
One more again?
Which way would you want to go with that? How do you think you could do that? And maybe speak on some entertainers that you think would be good to put that out. And how do you think it would work in our community?
Well, the entertainment platforms that are easily accessible to and have a good reach on them right now, we all know the power of hip hop and all that. But a way of attacking it is more or less with how you educate in your forms. You don't have to necessarily give them the same avenues of being singers and dancers and athletes in order to be successful in life. And that's the message that a lot of them are taught. If they don't know how to be a singer, a dancer, a rapper, an athlete, then the next thing that they're taught is, well, maybe you might want to own a brand instead of being a customer, own a brand. But that's still not answering the problem in our community as far as the services and products that we offer are not. They are not long-term money. They're short-term money. They're fad businesses. Like, we'll open a clothing line. We'll open a shoe line. We'll start selling candy. We'll do hair. We'll buy accessories. But we won't start a marketing company. We won't start a construction company. We won't. Those are the things that we need to really make foundation in our community with.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I don't have too many people telling people that they should start their own construction company. Yeah, and for sure, that's one that can last. I tell people open up a pawn shop.
It'll work, yeah, because
Hey.
we pawn ourselves, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, that would work.
That'll be a good one. Right, but another platform that I'm really avid in and passionate about right now is I got a campaign going on that I'm pushing to well, some people it comes off wrong, but it starts off basically, bro. I got an anti-black reparations campaign that I'm trying to do.
say
And
that.
the reason is anti. Go ahead.
No. Say it again. You have a what campaign?
An anti-black reparations campaign.
Okay.
Reparations.
I got you. Okay.
Or recreation? I thought you said reparations. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I believe that the black reparations campaign that's going on right now and demanding for black reparations doesn't do nothing but further feed and fuel the ignorance that is amongst us as a culture, and it's going to further divide us as a people. And that's if you follow the rhetoric that they are teaching as far as black reparations go, being direct descendants of African slaves and all that kind of stuff. My campaign focuses on the wrongdoing that society is doing to black people in general. My campaign starts a conversation in which white people are not having. Nobody in our country is having the conversation on the campaign that I'm interested in shedding light on. The main reason for that is because I don't believe we as a people need black reparations if we were allowed to take advantage of something that we as a people have natural and only we are the only ones that have access to it, and it's a natural resource.
I think you're giving us a show topic.
Do I hear any feedback on that?
No, I'm saying I think you just gave us a new topic for another show.
Yeah, so my black reparation campaign is this, bro. We don't need black reparations because we as black people, we have melanin in our skin. We are the only people on this planet that have melanin. And melanin is a natural resource, and it's traded on the freaking stock market.
Wait, so
as a matter of fact,
you lost me now. So
go ahead.
So we don't need reparations because we can make money off of the melanin in our skin?
Absolutely. The melanin in your skin is worth more than gold.
I have to ask this question because I don't know. But can we take the melanin out of our skin?
So the answer. So I'm glad you made the question. The answer to the question is, how about this? It's obviously possible that it can be done, because it's traded on the stock market. Where did they get it from?
That's interesting. I just gave me a homework assignment. I had to look that up.
Now, to further go on that, my motto and my campaign is "Blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice." But understand, every black person has a minimum value of $450 million based off the melanin that's in their skin. And we are the only people on the planet who have it. We're the only ones who have it. And we have access to it.
So melanin is
So the conversation that I want to have is, if I can come to you with some evaluation plans of being able to extract oil, gold, minerals, diamonds, or anything else from the earth, I can take that to a bank and apply for a loan and be able to get a loan to go extract those natural resources.
So you're gonna need some.
I should be able to do the same thing. I should be able to do the same thing against the melanin that I have access to, that I own.
So would you? Oh, this is very interesting. So you would try this on yourself, or would you try it on other people if you got the loan to explore this?
What I am saying is, just like any person can go into a bank with some paperwork that says, "Hey, this paperwork shows that I'm able to drill oil or get gold, or I'm able to get anything from this land. Can I have some money to go do that?" The bank will give you a loan to do that. Okay? That's what they will do. But what I am saying is, in our example, melanin is a traded resource on a public market. That is obviously something that they have a means of extracting.
He said melanin.
They have a means of being able to get it. If you naturally own it, why aren't you allowed to use it as a asset for you?
That's a good point.
Hey man,
later.
You make some good points, and we're gonna.
I want to know what that's under in the stock market.
We're gonna have to get with you on that one and have that show, and have that show. That's for sure.
And I don't, but I'm a
check it out. Check it out. If you live, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know. I'd have to research it. But I'm more for reparations because Japanese Americans got it after being in internment camps. So when they were broken down to their lowest common denominator and everything that was taken from them, they were built back up. Jews, everything that happened to Jews, every country's got something that helps out Jews. And they were never broken down to the lowest common denominator. A lot of them were slaughtered, but Jews in no way, shape, or form lost their ability to project themselves. African Americans were stripped of everything. Were brought to a country and enslaved again through the shackles of organized religion. Not saying I'm against it because I am religious, but I'm saying how it affected the African American community is different than the way it affected anybody else, and how it was used in America was different from how it was used anywhere else. So to say that when somebody's stripped of everything and now you're saying that they shouldn't receive anything from it when everybody else did, I really don't care how upset a white person gets, but I think, and I'm not saying it should be where everybody gets a certain amount of money, but I think certain programs should be set up because everybody is the same. My kids proved it. Everybody up here, kids prove it, that standardized tests are not flawed. They're not biased. But when people are raised a certain way and don't get certain opportunities, they're not going to have the ability to perform in those tests. So if it was something
I'm not denying that black reparations, that we're not entitled to black reparations as others are. But what I am saying is that the bigger battle or the bigger question is, we as a people have access to something that is worth more than gold. It is worth more than gold, and it is ours by our natural birthright. We can sit here and push the narrative about trying to get black reparations, but the fact that they are not allowing us to capitalize off of a natural resource that is naturally ours, and we can't capitalize off of it. That to me is a bigger question that they need to answer, opposed to dancing around whether or not you're going to give us reparations or not. If you answer the question and make it a fact that we can borrow against, or we can get a loan against the melanin value that is in our skin, we would not need reparations from the government or anybody else.
All right, Jaron, hold that thought 1 minute. Hold that thought. We got another caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, what's going down, everybody?
I kind of figured that was you. What up, Jesse? I was looking at your comments. So I kind of figured you was about to dial in a minute.
Go ahead,
Man, I'm sorry. Look, I just want to first, hey, everybody, how's it going, man?
What's good, brother?
What's up now?
Everything's good, bro.
Yeah, so are we talking about the racism thing, or are we talking about the point of the reparation?
Right now, we wrapping up. So you tell what you want. You can speak on whatever you want to speak on right now.
You know what? Because your comments was good. I was going to read them anyway. So go ahead and go over your comments in regards to educating children about race.
As far as introducing kids about racism, I think the first thing you have to understand about racism is racism, the issue that racism had, one of the psychological issues that racism had with Black Americans was that it took an identity away from us. Because racism is only a byproduct of classism and empowerment. And we just happen to be the collateral damage. And so racism itself is a mental thing. We're not talking about not systemic racism, but the kind of racism that we're talking about against our kids. Yes. So it's about teaching them an identity, the unapologetic identity of themselves. Like, power doesn't come from telling somebody to have power. It's them operating with that power. So if I don't treat my kid like they're at a disadvantage, they won't think about it like they're at a disadvantage, and that'll be to their age. So if I'm teaching my daughter that how to be a stand-up person, how to stand up against whatever injustice that you feel is up against you, how, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna, you know what I'm saying? I'm a teacher. There's bigots in the world, but I can't teach her like, hey, well, you know, you got to toe around this, and you got to be careful about that, and you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? This is about kind of empowering them from an educational and economic mindset, teaching them how to be builders in their own lives and not, you know, kind of kowtow to how everybody around them is feeling about their blackness. You know what I mean? Like, if you make that a part of their story, if you make their blackness a part of their story, then their blackness is a part of their story. If you make their blackness just, that's who I am. The reason I don't bring it up ain't because I'm not black, but because, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's somebody else. My blackness is somebody else's problem, not my problem. I'm not allow that to be, and teach them, empowering them from that perspective. That's how I think about that as far as raising our kids.
Okay.
I agree with that.
It's a good call, bro.
Yeah. Like I said, your comments was on point, bro. I was gonna read them because, like I said, we was getting to get wrapped up, but you went ahead and called in, so I figured I'd let you go ahead and go through with them and everything. You know, we're about to have you back up here soon. You know that, right?
Man, you know I love y'all, man. Anytime.
All right, my man. So, but listen, we got to go ahead and get wrapped up. My engineers keep wrapping his finger around. You've been up here before. You've seen it happen. So, hey, man, appreciate you calling in, man.
Appreciate the call, you and Jaron.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, be ready real soon.
Anytime, baby boy. I love you, bro.
All right, bro.
Later.
Peace.
Yeah, another one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep, and it was classic. It went all over the place. Y'all know how we do. MJ, go ahead and let them know.
Hey, as always, I think these shows touch everybody in different ways, but that's the point, to touch people. I'm a little bit more to the right. I think the panel's middle road and one more liberal, but I don't think anybody here is totally liberal. But I think I'm more towards the right. But like I said, I think the best thing we can do as a people is we can't keep calling each other kings and queens, and then the next word out of our mouths is nigger. You know, we have to start elevating ourselves on all levels. And like I like the last caller, he said he teaches his daughter a good value system. And if we all start doing that, we'll be less likely to take each other's lives. There's 163 or 64 murders last year. When I left Atlanta in July, it was like 79 murders. And between that time and the end of the year was almost 60-something murders occurred in a couple months span. And it was all black on black. And until we recognize that as a problem, we're snuffing out some of our lives before they get a chance to grow. So if we all make it a foot forward just to make our children better, or at least talk about a different way. If you're not there yet, sit down and talk to your kids about it. I think one thing my kids like, I tell them how not to do it. Don't do this like your daddy did, or you'll end up in this position. And I mean, it helps. So that's all I got.
That's excellent, man. And I mean, you hit home runs all night, MJ, on your points. I want to do another big shout out to Brother Snowden for calling in early tonight.
Yes, sir.
On that great history lesson that he gave. I'll be looking up Madison, Washington, for sure. And it was interesting because I didn't realize until he said at the end about the vice president, when he said it was his wife, then he said at the end that she was a slave. I didn't even catch that part until I had the question.
Right.
So, I mean, that's pretty deep, man. You go back all the way back to them days, but that's what them folks were doing back then. They were infiltrating the barns and where they were keeping our beautiful black queens at, man. I think that's why we always say the black woman is the most powerful creature on the face of this earth, man, for what they've had to endure for years and years and years. And
look how they're represented now in the mass media. Like I said, it's always a calico couple.
Yeah, true that. But then how he brought it back with that state rep who was taken out, and how how people say, man, I couldn't have been a slave. I'd have did that. You know what I mean? But then you have an opportunity to do something. And what are you doing?
Yeah. You ain't do nothing last week.
You still talking about what you wouldn't. You know what I mean? But you ain't doing nothing.
Like the people that didn't register to vote or didn't vote. Now, that should be the card everybody wears around their neck.
Yeah.
That should be the shut up, put up. Everybody should carry a voter card or whatever, And like I said, we don't get out and vote. I mean, we got out more than this last time. Shout out Stacy. She brought it on home,
Right.
And that impact, like I said, the history books are going to write about Trump. The history books. That's probably good. I think single-handedly in our time, he was the most important president because the rug was pulled from under it. He brought black people closer together than we ever were.
Brought more black people to politics.
Exactly, more black people in politics. They can't hide anymore. We know who they are. We know how they are. Now what we need to do to capitalize on that is the young black women and men that are watching and listening. They need to be the next Martin Luther King. Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, man. I mean, he just said so many poignant points, man. It just hit home in so many different ways. And then when he said, how the conquerors dictate the narrative. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when he said that, I was like, wow, that's such a true point. You know what I mean? How the conquerors, they dictate the narrative. You know what I mean? All that fighting over Vietnam and Saigon, he said it's not even, you don't even see it on the map anymore. I mean, I had no idea that. Saigon is not even on the map anymore. It's renamed because the conquerors changed it. You know what I'm saying?
When he said that,
deep,
I was like,
you get all the old Vietnam movie, Saigon.
Right there, yeah.
And now he says it's not even there.
City.
Yeah, that's deep, man. That was deep. So shout out again to, I think we all learned something,
going there
man.
as soon as COVID lifts. That's one of my spots, man. Yeah. It's supposed to be fabulous.
Is that right? That's what's up. Anyway, another classic conversation, man. I enjoyed this one, for sure.
Yeah, learned a lot tonight. Again, great opinions. We put them in there every now and then in regards to teaching our young people about race and race relations. We put it in there every now and then. Again, you just have to do the best that you can as a parent, mentor, uncle, whatever it is. We all have some type of contact with some younger people. And again, it's a fine line between teaching stand up, be proud, but at the same time not being a detriment to your own future. Because sometimes you can cut some things off by standing up and being loud when you probably shouldn't be, and you could mess up your own future with that type of thing. Yeah, we learned a lot, man. I'm gonna be Googling all week because he threw some stuff on me tonight. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Who's at the club this week?
If you didn't hear the whole show, man, go back and watch it.
Yeah.
You want to hear what Brother Snowden had to say.
At the beginning, man.
Go back and watch it.
At the beginning of it, the first 20 minutes is deep. Who's at the club this weekend?
Boy, Rob Stapleton, man, out of New York, is here this weekend, man. Rob Stapleton, boy, it's flat out funny, man. I can't even say no more about it, man. Dude is just straight up and down hilarious. It's gonna be a great show for sure.
And what was the name of that book again that he said? Some people look at clocks. I look at people.
I watch people. Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna find that book. It's on Amazon, so you can get it right on your phone. Everybody looking at your phone anyway, so you ain't got to actually have a paperback. But I got to get that book. That just listening to him makes me, I have to read some of his words. So I ain't got nothing this week. I ain't did nothing crazy this week. That's it. Classic Conversations, JT and Lo. We'll see you next week.
Hey, what's up, baby? I see you watching me. Why you trying to act like you shy?
I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me. I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me.
Shorty rockin' like a boss. I like the way you toss it. You got that camera shot pausing. Got me dipping in the sauce though. Love you like I'm Neo. Lay back, see me as your hero. Yeah, I love you long time. Did you catch that? Wanna dine cause she's mine. Baby girl, know she fine. Drop it down one more time. See, there's nobody else for me, only you. You got me catching feelings like I caught the flu. Deja vu, daydreaming what I wanna do. Let's make it last, me and you, just the two. I gotta ask you, baby, would you ride with me? Sky high, ride or die, come and fly with me. We on top for the world to see. Come a little closer, girl, and do that dance for me.
I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me. I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me.
You got me looking at you, feeling like I'm hypnotized. Feeling all your vibes, looking in your brown eyes. You make me wanna straighten up and fly right. Lighting candles, cause tonight we bout to. It's just me and you, one against the world. See, all I need in this life to win is you, girl. Yeah, I wished upon a shining star. I held it down till I found you, now here you are. You better believe you're my blessing, baby. I feel like singing Tyrese, cause you're my sweet lady. No one else compares, you got the right stuff. You're more than just enough, you're my diamond in the rough. Getting money is your forte. I like the way you get excited all about it like it's foreplay. The word is yours, have it your way. I'm gonna need you to come a little closer, girl, it's okay.
Holding the club, nothing on my mind. Until I saw this dime, walked over slow, watched from behind. She broke it down to a real slow grind. Brought it back up, looked me dead in my eyes. I knew then I wasn't wasting my time. Thinking to myself, how can I make you mine? I only wanna be with you tonight. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me. I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me. I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me. I see you watching me. Won't you come a little closer to me? Won't you do a sexy dance for me? Bounce that thing on me. Drop it low for me. Come a little closer to me. come a little closer to me? Bounce, bounce that thing on me, drop it low for me.